Welcome to the Missouri Valley Track and Field Show. I'm your host, Cliff Wiley. Well, the 2015 summer track season is over. So what we're going to do now is it's time to look back and see how did Missouri Valley Association kids do. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show. I have here Coach Ken Ferguson, coach of the Flyers track and field team. Welcome to our show, Coach.
Yeah, good to be here, Cliff.
Okay, Coach, every year it seems like the Flyers are producing great athletes who dominated the Missouri Valley Association and then go on to compete well on the national stage. How do you do it?
Well, Cliff, is just a lot of hard work. What we try to get the kids to do is to buy into the idea that nothing worth working for is going to be achieved without putting in a lot of work and a lot of effort, and buying into the fact that, you know, the pain associated with success, you know, is just part of the whole deal, you know. So that's essentially what we try to get these guys to buy into, and then what happens is that they go out and we measure them on a week-by-week basis to see if they're progressing the way we expect them. And our season really, Cliff, starts way back in September.
Okay.
So when we start our fall training, and then they're building all the way to the indoor season, and then obviously for the high school kids, they go back to high school, and then we go back to the summer program. So by August, I mean, they've had a pretty long season. So afterwards, they're rested. So they don't just start.
Okay.
I mean, they've been working for almost a whole year.
Well, Coach, how did the season go for your kids this year?
Well, you know, I mean, you can measure the season both from how many of them made it to nationals, and for us, more importantly, how those athletes have progressed from where they started. And if you look at it, every one of our athletes, where they ended up the season, even the ones that did not make it to nationals, they were far ahead of where they started off. And to me, that's the measure of the success. Of course, we had about 6 athletes that made it to the national championships. Noah Green in the 110 hurdles and the 400 hurdles. Maddie Polatacek in the 400. Reese Jones in 15 and the 3,000. Patrick Bowen in the 400-meter hurdles. And then one of the kids that made it but didn't, actually 2 others, Jared Renke, he made it in 800. And then we had one other athlete, Natalie Copland, who couldn't make it to the nationals, although she qualified. So we had a good representation there at the national championships.
Well, Coach, I think that's pretty good. I was down in Jacksonville. It was hot. Both on the track and off the track, okay? Yeah. You know, Coach, a lot of people in the local track and field community know that you coach the Flyers. They also know that you are a former president of the Missouri Valley Association. But what many of them don't know is that you're a professor at UMKC Law School. Yep. A nationally known expert in sports law. And also very active in the NCAA as the faculty representative at UMKC, okay? And on top of all that, you're also on the executive committee for USA Track and Field Youth Division. How do you juggle all those balls in the air?
Well, as you outlined that, I don't know how I do it. You know, I do know one thing. I wake up early in the morning. I usually get up about 4:30 in the morning to do whatever work I need to get done, so that I could be with these kids in the afternoon. So, you know, it's something. These things are things that I enjoy doing. So you make time to get those things done. It's being a law professor is not only challenging academically, but it gives me the freedom and flexibility to sort of plan my time and be able to do the research that I need to do on the time that I need to get it done. So I think it's pretty excited. I get excited about just being able to live the life the way I'm living it now.
Well, Coach, that is great, okay? Our sport would not be what it is if we didn't have professionals such as yourself giving their time back to the sport. Coach, let me ask you this. Where do you see the sport going? You're involved on both the local level and both the national level. Give us a little bit of perspective.
Well, I think what we're beginning to see now is a resurgence of track and field. And you've seen this on the national level. Of course, you know, we're starting to see some of our athletes, both on the men's and the women's side of the elite level, are really starting to make their mark on the national and international level. And then you see a lot of that, you know, sort of filtering down into the youth division, because you've been on several national teams where you're taking young people who are going to represent the U.S. in an international perspective. And so, and the numbers are growing. The excitement that I see that these kids are showing in getting to that level is just incredible. I mean, we used to see kids who would do extremely well on the national level, but you don't see anything else happen with them afterwards. Now you're starting to see a lot more kids that are heavily involved in international competition from a youth level. So, you know, I think the sport is growing. Hopefully it'll get back to the way things were back in the 70s and the 80s. And I think it's moving in that direction. I think USA Track and Field has done a lot of things to improve the sport. I think the youth division of USA Track and Field has fought really hard on the youth level to make this thing an exciting and experience for our youth athletes.
And a lot of people don't know that USA Track and Field begins to select national teams for kids as early as 15 years of age with the Youth World Championships.
Yeah, absolutely. And we try to encourage kids to begin to think about track and field, not simply from the local level, whether it be high school or the local track meets, but to begin to think about it as an international sport, and to begin to see themselves, whether they make it or not, begin to see themselves as having an opportunity and being good enough to get to that level. And oftentimes people measure success by whether you get there or not. My measure of success is what you try for. And so we try to encourage these guys to go for the highest level, regardless of whether you make it or not. That sets you up, I think, for success later on in life, and the sky becomes the limit when you begin to look at your world from that perspective.
Well, Coach, you're definitely developing the steps for our kids to reach that sky. Okay?
Well, I hope so.
Well, Coach, listen, thanks for coming on our show,
Thanks.
and we'll be looking for you.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.